Hi, my name's Tony, I'm from Safety Mitts, and I'm here to talk to you about a new bracket that we've developed that actually allows you to use a blue heeler tensioner on our new 0G gravity tool balancing arms. Now what this does is it allows you to balance the weight of the tensioner, and all you're having to do is actually maneuver the tensioner into place on the roof bolt and apply the tension load. So what I'm going to do for you now is I'm going to show you how to actually fit up the bracket onto the blue heeler tensioner, and then we'll have a look how it fits up onto the 0G tool balancing arm and the benefits you're going to get from using this type of technology. So I've got all the components laid out on the bench here, but before I actually start showing you how to assemble the bracketry onto the blue heeler tensioner, I just want to give a bit of an example. So I'm a bit of a big lad, but this is quite a heavy piece of equipment. So that's 16 kilos, so if you're doing roof bolts continuously during the day, that becomes a very, very heavy tool. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to actually show you how we assemble the bracketry onto the blue heeler tensioner. Now we don't affect the structural integrity of the blue heeler tensioner. Basically, the bracketry is designed to bolt directly onto the handle section of the blue heeler tensioner, and what we actually do is with the handles that we've developed, we're actually bringing the handles down into a more ergonomic position, so you're not outstretched over your head, engaging the bicep, the tricep and the trapezius and constantly fatiguing those. We're actually down into what they call the power lift zone, so we're working more in this area here, and we'll show you that once we get into seeing the bracket and the blue heeler tensioner on the 0G. Okay, here we're going to actually attach the bracketry to the blue heeler tensioner. So first we have to remove the handles, so I have removed some of the bolts out of this earlier just to make it a bit quicker. So basically just remove the handles off the blue heeler tensioner. So I hope you can see that there properly. What we have is basically the three major components: the rotating gimbal, the arm extensions, and what we do is that we need to partly assemble these three components, because of the proximity to these bolts. If you don't tighten these up first before completing the assembly, what will happen is that you won't be able to get a hex key in there, and it becomes a little bit frustrating. So what we'll do is we'll just fit it up to get it fitted up now. So basically it's just, they have these points, so connection points here and here on the swivel. We have the long bolts. Basically they could just go in there. So there's 4 bolts, 2 either side. So that goes in there like that. And then what we do is that we'll just drive these home. Or the front one anyway. Just so it's tight on that one. And then this one on here. This one's a little bit easier. You do have a bit of access here. I've got this little ratchet here, it's a 3/4 drive, and in the design of this, we've actually used all of the nuts are actually 5mm hex. So just drive that one home. Alright, so we'll put this other one in. So they're just finger tight at the moment, and as you can see, I don't think you can, that's actually on the outside of the original handle mounting brackets on the blue heeler tensioner. So what we do then is that we have this little mid support, so this will just go in here. So just got some bolts here. That'll just go in there. I'll just run that up a little bit. Like that. So then what we have, so we've got them attached there. What we'll do is we'll add the bolts into the bracket onto the blue heeler tensioner. So we'll just go onto that. So again, as I'm just finger tight at the moment, I'll come back and I'll use the wrench to just drive them all home. We do this because sometimes you know, with the tensioners that have probably been down the hole a long time or down in the mine, you know, they do get knocked around a little bit, so sometimes things might be a little bit out of alignment. So we may have to make some little adjustments as we go along, just to get things to line up. We do our best to get the measurements complete, and some degree of tolerance in the brackets, but yeah, there's always something that can be a little bit of a, you know, doesn't align properly. So, but you know, we do our best. So just putting that in there. So we'll just put those, you see here, I'm just putting those nuts in there. It doesn't take long when you're operational, you know. So this, just a bit of history on this bracket. It was actually developed up in the Bowen Basin. At the moment we don't have approval to mention who the mine site is that worked with us to develop the bracketry, and one thing that I can say is that they've actually mounted it on both their roof bolt baskets and their continuous miner. So they use a continuous miner. We have a number of mine sites that have purchased product for trial, and just running through that. So so far all of it's all very good. So then we have to fit the handle. So remembering that there is a lanyard on both. So depending on what side you do that, I'll put it here on the right. So again, all we're doing is just finger tight, but as you can see, it's really easy to go back together. Now remembering that we're not touching the structural integrity of the tensioner at all. We're just picking up on the original mounting points and using that as our securing locations for our bracket. So it's just simple now, is that once I have the handles completed, what we do is that I just run through with that little ratchet and you know, tighten everything up to home, and away we go. So what I'll be showing you next is one of the configurations that we have with the 0G tool balancing technology, which is where we have some mine sites that are actually mounting it on the side of a man basket, and they're just using this simple mounting bracket to attach it to the basket, and it works very well. So there you have it. So what I do now is I just go through and rattle all those up, but for this exercise, what we'll do is I'll do that off camera, and then we'll come back and I'll show you how we mount it up onto a little makeshift scaffold that I have here. So this is the 0G bracket here. So this is a scaffold bracket. It's got these little, what they call it, gravity latch on here. It has this sliding bottom rail. So what this does is this goes on the top, or this goes on the top, that goes on the bottom rail, and then it secures into position. So on our demonstration version, it just slides over. We just open up that gravity latch, slide it in, and let it lock. So that's now secure onto the rail and the top and bottom. So then we have the 0G arm. So it has a male attachment point into the scaffold bracket, so that slides in there. There's a locking pin. You can't see it probably on that on the video from that far away, but it's got a locking pin. So that actually just goes in to secure that mounting attachment. So that's locked into place. So now that won't come out. Now what we have is we have a double arm. So this will actually give you 860 millimeters of dynamic movement. So what we have to do before we actually attach the tensioner, it's got these little knobs just here at the top. I don't know whether you can see those either, but there's an adjustment knob. It's got a plus and a minus. What we do is that we actually preload. So what you do is you put a bit of tension on those, just so you've got some resistance load. You'll know if you're pushing down, you'll know that you're getting a resistant load. So we'll just put some both on that. Now remember, this is stored energy. The other thing we have on the scaffold mounting bracket is that there's a gravity latch just on the front face of the bracket. Before we put any tool into the zero gravity arm, we always make sure that it's docked in the gravity latch, and simply we do that. We're just pushing down on load and then locking it into the positive position. So now that's all locked away in place. So what we'll do now is then we'll fit the blue heeler tensioner into the mounting location on the front of the 0G mounting bracket. So, zero G arm. So what we'll do here, just rolling this around. Remember, this is quite a heavy device. So now we're positive into position. So we have a positive into position on the 0G arm. It's still in the gravity latch. So what we're going to do now is that we do a bit of final adjustment. So remembering at the front of the video, I showed you how heavy this, well, it was a bit of a struggle for me to lift it up. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to disengage it from the gravity latch here. So we're out. So now I am just on this, there's the I don't know if you can see it there, but I'm actually increasing the spring rate on the 0G arm to maximum on both locations. As you can see, I'm holding this now with one arm and maneuvering it. So that's the effective distance. So now you can see that I can move this with one arm. So that's the effectiveness of this device. So what I'll do is I'll redock, and I might zoom out a little bit and you can see what I mean with the power lift area. Okay, so we've moved out a little bit further. You can get a bit more of a wider angle. You need that. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to disengage it again. So now you can see when you're on the roof bolt. Now remembering that this will be a little bit higher mounted on either the man basket or the continuous miner, but I'm effectively just moving that around. I can change angle. Now this has actually got 37 degrees of angle, so if you're going onto a roof bolt, typically they're at about 20 from what I understand, but sometimes you might have a bit of roof fall away and the plate is actually at a different angle. So we've got that to 37 degrees as a maximum, but basically you can just run it up. You'd have to imagine that that's the roof bolt coming down. It would run in. And remembering earlier I mentioned about there's a clip here. If it gets caught up on the roof, what you can do is that you disengage this retaining pin, and what that does is gives you a little bit more angle. So you can use that as well as another angle. So I'll give you another 20 degrees. And you can release the tensioner, or you can use the tensioner in this this mode without the locking pin. So we'll just put that back in. So there we have it. That's the blue heeler 0G tool mounting system. So zero balance, and basically I think a much easier device when you're doing roof bolting. Thanks very much for watching.